Good afternoon, everyone. I know we have a tough task, by the way, that post-lunch sessions are supposed to be requiring more efforts to keep the audience awake. But I think we have such a theme to discuss that we are all going to be awakened by default, I would say. Because today I have the privilege of being part of a panel which is, means I would say, an eminent set of leaders are here who can discuss elements of experience, elements of market research, and reality. So, without probably making it more elaborate, I would go directly by asking a set of questions to all of these leaders that are here on the dais. I will start with Ramesh. Uh, Ramesh, given the critical role of exchanges and what was the most significant cyber incident in this sector that you have observed in the recent years? And how did it reshape your approach to market continuity as well as investor confidence? Because that is a very important part when we look at exchanges.
Yeah. Am I audible?
I should go and
Yeah.
stand there, you know.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Sukrit and my co-panelists for this very interesting topic and obviously hot topic. So, just to start with, financial sector has been always been in the top of the list for cyber attacks and hackers, what we can say, primary target, right? So financial sector being one of the money-oriented sector, that's obviously the first preference for attacks to hackers to target. So in our BFSA sector, in fact, I would try to generalize my responses, not only specific to our capital market, or in fact, BFSA entire sector is facing a lot of cyber attacks nowadays, right? So we can't afford a zero downtime is our primary KPI in providing services to the investors and customers who are strongly looking at BFSA sector to, safeguard, invest and safeguard their hard-earned money. So cybersecurity being one of the key requirements and key objectives of our sector. So what we have is a robust security programs in place to ensure that the systems, the data information is protected, and we have systems to have timely response and restore the system back to normalcy in case of any eventuality. Though all such controls mechanisms are there, recently we have found many attacks happening. I would like to share specific to what Sukrita has asked is recent attacks, right? Uh, One means very kind of noted cyber attack happened last year, the month of December. You might have heard about, where close to 25 to 30 clients of our sector got ransomware. Very big incident. When you get into the details of that cyber incident or attack, so there are glaring gaps which came out as part of the RCA, root cause analysis. That attack, I would like to highlight, has got financial impact straight away to all the clients who got ransomware, regulatory investigations, forensic investigations, RCA, that has got its own cost implications, of course, legal issues, customer compliance, and ultimately reputation damage. So having faced all these impacts, when the cyber teams experts got into the details of how it happened and why it happened, the gaps were found at three levels. I'm trying to explain it in a bit in detail. First, at the people level, the people who are handling the systems, working on the systems, there was a gap found, like the credentials were compromised. Attacker could easily get the credential from of those people who are accessing a public-facing internet server where data upload download happens, and then after that he could easily get into the system, do his scanning, lateral movement, and one fine day he has simply launched his ransomware attack, left that exploit and it got into the systems. And 25 to 30, as I said, the number might be approximately it's around 25. You can imagine one server, one attacker coming into a system, hitting it and impacting almost close to 25 clients, which means it is a typical supply chain lapses, supply chain attack, I would call it, because the software used by the 25 to 30 clients, what we are discussing out here, is from one service provider, or you can call OEM, a software service provider. The weakness first at the people, credentials compromised, then easily they could get into the system. They could exploit the vulnerabilities in that software, and they could get into multiple data centers where the client's data is or systems are hosted, third party and then fourth party. So the level of means impact was definitely very huge. The level of lapses in the security implementation, control implementation was also huge. So 3 points we need to take it as a lessons learned out of these incidents. First is human problem. People security must be on the top of the list, because without credential stuffing and credential leakage, you wouldn't have got into the main system. And once the system he has entered into the system, the server where it is deployed in a hard data center, that should have a basic cybersecurity controls in place. Some kind of EDR, XDRs, some kind of access controls, multi-factor authentication, and security monitoring, and the network segmentation. These are basic things we talk about, right? You might have heard in multiple panel discussions here, people talk about zero trust, segmentation, security controls, defense in depth, everything we talk about. That basic control mechanism was missing in that case. The vulnerability in one software being used by multiple clients got impacted, thereby creating impact in multiple clients. So the utmost priority, if you guys might have following the news, for the last 1 to 2 years, maximum cyber attacks close to 70-80% are attributed towards third-party vendors. Third-party supply chain linked vendors and OEMs. And the recent also maybe means I can quickly touch upon MDS, you may be hearing, right? So that got impacted in the month of February, and still they are struggling to recover, and their management says they will be up and running by July month. So that is typically, they are again pointing out towards third-party vendor credential leakage. So the point I want to highlight here is third-party risk assessment is the need of the hour, most priority item. Supply chain attack, supply chain risks should be considered separately. We should have a focused approach, and focusedly we should be monitoring the systems and implementing the controls. So earlier there used to be, even nowadays also, we believe in something called periodic assessment test and all, right? No, those days are gone. Now we should change our approach, and the way of means dealing the cyber security. It should be continuous, and it should be continuously we should be monitoring the system, continuously you will be doing the testing, and continuously you will be evaluating the controls. So that continuous piece should come in instead of regulatory or periodic approach. These are some of the pointers I could share as part of the recent attacks happened in financial sector. Yeah.
Thank you. So I just realized I should stand there and talk. I think this gives me a better view of all of you, because from there I have to stretch. I don't want to topple out of the chair. So thanks for bringing those points out. Now I have a thought that I want to bounce it off with Satya here. Satya, you have been part of an industry which has been both targets as well as risk assessors. So from that standpoint, can you share a key learning from any of the major incidents that you got to know about, or findings?
Well, Sukrit, I think from the perspective of the financial sector, the attack vectors, what we have seen, I come from a risk background, from a financial risk background, and I have huge appreciation for the subject of security. So I will wrap the security from a business risk perspective. I think we all talk about, I think as Ramesh mentioned, the typical supply chain attacks, the complexity of, you talk about network segregation, you talk about network segmentation, you talk about micro segmentation. I think we all are excited about these subjects. But with my understanding, I think what I have seen, the typical threat actor acts he is exploiting the basics which is wrongly designed in our systems. If we go back to our own systems, how many of our logs are capturing the credentials for the convenience of application talking to each other? The credentials of each applications. If you go back and look into your logs, I think you will see a lot of credentials of your third-party systems, of your lot of your systems are part of the logs, and those credentials are being used for any call or any callback or any call or to trigger certain amount of application interface. Are those credentials, you have multiple times your AWS or your cloud access keys also being hard-coded there. The threat vectors or the threat actors actually pick up these. If you take up financial services, I'm talking about the easy, low-hanging fruits. And these are not, you need not to be a very tech or a tech guy to create something great for not having a compromise of your systems. You need to have the basics right, which nobody is interested to correct because it is a very non-exciting topic. I come from a risk hat, so therefore I see this happening. And therefore, I give you another perspective of a business risk. I come from financial services sector. Insurance per se is a business where you have intermediaries who are accessing your systems and you service the customer through again a set of intermediaries. What it means, the entire business model is of third parties. The people who source business, the people who service business. When you have gone to any motor dealer to buy a car, you must have experienced the guy who is sitting at one corner in that motor dealer office, who is punching something to create an invoice or to buy an insurance for you, is not even a 12th grade pass guy. But have you thought about it, that he has access to the systems of an insurance company? He has credentials to issue policies. And how does he maintain the password? Somewhere on a sheet, which is posted at somewhere, near his desk. So that he works in shifts, and anybody else can sit through and use the password and access the systems. It happens with any other intermediary. You go to yatra.com, the office of yatra.com, I'm not listing any name. You go to any of the travel agent or anywhere, that's it works. If you go to any dark web, you employ any dark web service provider, you will find these credentials in the dark web. What it means is that it's an authorized application access which anybody has with the right credentials. And if you have certain vulnerability in your application, with those credentials, you can have a transversal movements. So the business risk is translated from this technology risk and the cyber security risk in particular. So more the investment you make around network segmentation, you create micro segmentation, I think that's not going to solve the problem. Your vulnerabilities are your basics, which are there everywhere because nobody is interested to solve the problem. So I think these are things which I wanted to talk about, which are actually creating those business exposures for the organizations. And we all track towards something high engineering solutions around it, because we feel that these low-hanging fruits cannot be addressed. So I don't say that it's a CISO community who has to address it. It's a business process and the business owners who also have to address that, because security is not a technology problem, it's a business problem. So that are the limited thoughts at this point in time. As we progress, we can add something on that.
A fair point, and you actually make me think on another ground, which now I will direct it to Anand. Anand, what has been the most critical lesson that you can share, means lesson learned that you can share from a public-private collaboration when you encounter an incident? What has been those, means the how part of it or the what part of it? How have you observed this entire collaboration?
Hey, thanks, Secret. I think I'll take cue from what Satya said, that cybersecurity is not only a CISO's problem, it's a business problem. I will say that cybersecurity, again, it's not a problem, but yes, cybersecurity management also is a collective activity. no single entity can uh, manage all the aspects of cyber security uh, aspects. Everyone, all of us have some role to play. Uh, in that, then coming to the collaboration, yes, collaboration is not an option. Uh, it's essential. Basically, in past, we have seen that the cyber threat landscape is continuously evolving. We have seen in recent past also various volumetric and various varieties of cyber attacks, starting from DDoS, the defacements, ransomwares, and so on and so forth. So that space is also continuously evolving with the evolution in the new techniques, Gen AIs, and all of that world. So to mitigate that, I think collaboration is required. Secondly, timely sharing of the information through formal or informal, both the channels, that is also important, and it's a key point. For example, CERTIN has mandated reporting of incidents within a particular time period, right? So while it is for reporting the cyber incidents, some mandate should also be there, or some option also should also be there to share the uh, information across the public and private sector, because what public sector, the risks which are seen by the public sectors and the associated mitigating techniques, and equally the whatever is seen by the private sector and those mitigating techniques, if that information is shared across, that will really bring or help or enable us to manage the cybersecurity space very effectively. Uh, as far as we are concerned, say from as a GSTN, we share threat intel with, say, while we consume it from the various government agencies, we also share it back to the government agencies so that it can be further distributed across the various sectors, and they also should get benefited. So to summarize, I think say there has to be trust building activity should be there in terms of sharing, while sharing the threat intel or whatever information in a collaborative way. Then there should be joint exercises around response and the cyber resiliencies. Uh, Information sharing, as I said, through formal channels like ISAC, or informally through multiple options are available right now. It will definitely help to improve the overall collaboration across PPP model. And just the last thing that while information sharing is required, but then some effort should also go towards decreasing the compliance burden, because there are multiple agencies and multiple compliances are there which are driving various cybersecurity initiatives and helping us to mitigate those risks also, and also ensuring the compliance. But at the same time, somewhere that fatigue, if at all that fatigue is addressed, then the entire fraternity will also get some bandwidth to then effectively contribute towards collaborative efforts.
Okay. Well, I was just seeing this picture in front of me. It shows a fort. Uh, so historically, if you see any institute like the kingdoms or from right from the history of mankind, financial institutes are something they are well guarded. Initially, they were armies and the walls which are being built over there. So, so if I see, and if you also see, or if you have kind of read the history. Yeah, if you also have, every one of us has read the history. Uh, so there were two major threats that were always there. And I would say today also, the same two threats are the biggest threats to the financial industry, despite I would say that today also financial industry is kind of guarded very well compared to the other sectors. So one is the insider threats. If I talk about thousands years back, there was always a mole in the fort or someone or somewhere like either he was planted or he was someone whose aspirations were not met. And the second was the vendors with which that kingdom always kind of interacted for business. So today also, if we see the kind of exposure that the financial industry is having, and in the adjacent room, I was hearing that the number of vendors which are there are crossing 4 digits and somewhere 5 digits also. So who is actually uh, kind of keeping an eye on all those vendors and the insiders? So to answer your question, it's humanly impossible to see and monitor all the humans, all the machines, all the different entities which are there. And it is very important for the financial sector to kind of function properly, that all of the insider threats and the threats related to the vendor management has to be taken care of. So I have seen a lot of such organizations or the financial sector especially, and I believe that they are the first movers when it comes to security as a technology in every front. I see something called as user and entity behavior analytics, which is kind of AI and ML enabled UEBA. That is something that is widely accepted, and basically it monitors all the devices, all the physical entities, all the human entities in a system. And the moment someone crosses their boundaries for which, like, he was not supposed to do that or he was not supposed to see that, it is triggered as an incident and it is taken care uh, by the analyst or someone who is sitting behind the desk. So yeah, I would say that just to summarize, the biggest threats to be addressed today also for the financial sector are the insider threat and the threat related to the supply chain management or vendor management. So hmm.
Hello. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Okay. So I'll try to give you answer both the ways. One is what would be the landscape looks like for CISOs and what would be the best practices they should have. So landscape. Now first understand we are moving from information era to AI. Information era was if you wanted to get some idea how to bypass the all information available in Google. But now we are moving from this era to AI, which means AI will do to create that program and run automatically. So this has been changing. So we have to understand the change first. Now, earlier, developer can be imposters or they can be hackers. But now these days, if I don't know anything about coding, I can be a big hacker because every information is available and AI is doing is that job behalf of you. If you see that landscape, earlier landscape was a pretty nominal things like, jailbroken devices, there are few vulnerabilities or exploitations are happening. But now we are looking at the AI era where most of the attacks are AI-based phishing, social engineering. We are looking at AI-based adversarial attacks, synthetic fraud. The best experience, what I can share is one of the big bank based in Asia. They had an issue of fake KYC, okay? Which means the person, it's a synthetic fraud identity theft, that there is no person as a real, but the real video KYC happening as a fake person. So this is the main reason that we are living in AI era, that anything can possible, but there is no proper mechanism to identify. So these things are keep evolving. How do we do the best practices to stop it or understand the landscape looks like? So the best practices, I would say, to CISO's point of view, they should understand what would be my threat intel, understand the patterns, what are the users, hackers, imposters coming on my platform, how they are behaving. So behavior analysis is pretty much important. Then understand the threat intel. On that basis, if there is upcoming, there are most of the companies, like vendors, they do have a dark and deep web threat monitoring intel. So first they will understand if those sort of security patterns can be bypassed or not. And on that basis, the enterprise can understand, okay, if my vendors things can be bypassed, then I'm also in trouble. So that should be visibility they should get, the enterprise level CISOs. They should be keep discussing with their vendors, because if you see, Satya is also shared that there are third parties, companies are involved when you are doing in business. So the risk is also there for third parties. So I think there are multiple touch points to understand. Understand your, basically zero trust is always important, because you do not trust anyone is the best practice, I would say. Still, it's very good. Understand the new AI age attacks, which how we can able to prepare, what would be the best practices to prevent. And the second thing is, I think main is compliances. So now the government is also enforcing compliance on each part. Like there is compliances from NPCI and RBI that on any mobile application you should have a RASP, a runtime self-application protection, which it's not just for DAST or SAST, but is also putting the wrapper or encryption on mobile application, that it will be prevent any sort of reverse engineering attacks or any AI adversarial attacks or malware attacks. If you see these days, most of the malware as a service is selling, ransomware as a service is selling. These days, like the major, the tools has been applied as a hacker is Magix or A-Patch or Kernel Su. These sort of software, they were actually a basic software, but in age of AI, they have changed their patterns, and it's very difficult to detect this sort of pattern. So I think the the summary is, they should have the proper implementation of zero trust, implementation, enforcing that if we are, as a CISO compliance point of view, government compliances we are following or not, how my security is trust, incidents management is well handling or not, and then before happening attack, I should be able to predict. So protect, detect, respond, and predict should be there. So that's it from my side. Yeah. Yeah. Tools, right? Yeah. 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 Yeah, so first thing I think most of the businesses, their window is application, mobile application. So mobile application is the window. They are creating their business. They are selling whatever the product lineups they have. That can be banking, fintech, BFSI, whatever things are there. So they should protect. But it's the protection. Most of the people are thinking on just encryption or maybe WAF can be possible. But no, this is different technology, different windows. They should adopt RASP, runtime self-application protection. I would say first tool should be RASP. Second, they can be think on overall cyber threat management incidents prevention tool they can invest. And third, I would say they can be getting understand uh, my customer data prevention. There will be most of the chances that the customer data get leaked. So they should invest to protect the customer data, which is very important for trust.
See, you talked about what should be the only three things, but I think whatever money you would want to spend of technology is always less unless you improve the people and processes around it. Uh, you can compare the cyber security with anything in the world. Uh, I would say, like, there are plenty of viruses, there are plenty of bacteria who are there to kind of kill you all the time. So, is there a tablet which is $1 million and can make you healthy? No. The first thing is discipline that you have to maintain. The second thing is by keeping that discipline, you improve that posture. As my dear friend was also saying, that no one is ready to improve the basics. As soon as you are well again, you'll run to eat the most unhealthy dish available on the earth, which suits your palate. Again, the human behavior. So it's extremely important to improve the discipline, the behavior, and security no longer can be achieved by obscurity. There was a particular time when people thought that, oh, no one would come to know it. Okay? But now, my dear friends, like everyone is aware, that machines are on a continuous search to look for the vulnerabilities, and as soon as you already know what your weaknesses are, so does all the organizations. So gone are those times, and it is time to uh, uh, be a little more disciplined and more educated around the processes. And I see, a lot of I'm really happy also to uh, whenever someone is calling someone who's mobile, everyone says ki cyber threat ke chakkar mein na pade. It's such an important topic that is available to educate everyone. So yes, our government with amount of resources or with limited resources are towards the right, they're moving toward the right direction. So yeah, these are my 2 points into that. Yeah.
So, Sukrit, typically, the budgets are definitely not a prerogative of the board. The budgets are a prerogative of the management. The board looks for assurance. When you are providing assurance, the board looks into the CEO and ask whether the required budgets have been provided, and the CEO nods his head, and we also need to nod our head, say that they have been provided. Because end of the day, the business is not in the business of security. The business is in the business of business. And because the business is in the business of business, we need to be enabler and we need to ensure the continuity and the disruption is not there. Having said that, the conversation is on controls. When you come with a new budget, I think the first question you need to answer is that in the overall control landscape, are you adding it as a new control? Are you strengthening the existing control? Are you replacing the existing control because of new threat vectors? So the conversation will be only on 3 points. You are replacing the existing control because of the new threat vector. Are you bringing a new control? Or is it something where a control has been changed? So nothing beyond that. And when you are justifying the cost, it's again the justification of the same. We used to have antivirus, then we bought the EDRs. So it was a control where you are replacing the existing control with enhanced control because of the new threat vectors. But typically, prevention as a security cost, there is no ceiling there. As a prevention technologies, there is no ceiling for whatever cost you want to justify. So at some point of time, the board appreciates that cyber risk is a most important risk. But they also have enough wisdom to say, the more the preventive technologies you put on the table, there is nobody there to sanction it. Because at some point of time, you are employed for doing something more than that. Not to bring solutions on the table, but you bring the solution rather than technological solutions. When I said solutions, you are not expected to bring technological solution there. You need to provide solutions with the existing what you have. So the conversation goes into only one point. Is it a new threat vector? You bring a new technology, or resilience is the key point. Ability to come back and again operate. Because end of the day, no business is going to create a NASA or a ISRO environment or a stock exchange type controls, with all due respect, because exchange has a live business environment and the type of businesses we are not going to create a NASA type structure, security structure. It's not that what we are creating. It's creating where business is enabler, and we should be resilient enough to come back and continue. So the conversations have moved from investment to resilience. How soon you can come, respond, recover, and continue the business and have minimal impact. So the cyber crisis recovery program is the precursor now. You need to have an imperative, demonstrable cyber resilience program where you have the right forensic investigator, you have the right PR agency, you have the right legal counsel, you have all those engagements, all those methodologies, mechanisms in place, so that at any point in time, you are able to respond, recover, and bring the business in a continuity mode with the least impact. I think all these last 15 years, I think we have been hearing about new technologies, new solutions, and so much have been talked about it and so much have been invested about it. But I think the boards have become quite reasonable and they have been quite with a lot of wisdom now. They say enough is enough. End of the day, I need to run the business, I need to make a profit. We are not in a charity organization. So you have to show resilience. So as chief risk officers, our prerogative is not to put a new control or a new budget. The way I started the conversation, that was a conversation that will always happen. But more importantly, you have to demonstrate resilience. I think that's more the talk of the town now.
You heard both sides, right? Which is the partner ecosystem side, which says that we need to invest. You heard Satya mention about what are the imperatives. What would be your ask from the ecosystem, the partner ecosystem, to balance this? Because I still see while Satya has this roadmap for the organization to create that resilience plan, but there are cost pressures which immediately comes to lead. And citing the lessons that have been there from past incidents, what do you expect from the partner ecosystem as a sector?
See, any organization cannot run without support of partners and service providers, right? So organizations, to make it, our friends talked about cyber resilient and all. Resiliency, one of the pieces, technology resilience, for which we need to depend upon service providers and technology providers. The expectation from them would be obviously understanding the organization's requirement. Maybe once we famously say right, the one size fit doesn't work everywhere. So that there lies the key of means success for the partnership between any organization and a partner or a vendor, I would call. Generally, we try to avoid calling vendor. It's always a partner, because you may be having a top-notch technology in the market, saying we are top Gartner means quadrant and various other forums. There's a lot about it. When that gets into the environment, we start implementing it. We start actually measuring again, connecting back to what our friend said, ROI, what it is delivering. There's a lot of gap. So at times it becomes very tough for the security leaders to justify the revenues or cost incurred during that implementations, what actually they are delivering it. So there lies the responsibility, I would call, and a kind of collaborative approach between the service providers and the organization. Um, what I have seen is that this piece is missing out in most of the cases, because until and unless you sit on the table, understand, review what has been asked for, what is being implemented, what is being delivered, and end of the day, when you have to think about the partnership given to that particular agency, uh, that needs to be looked into very closely. That I think will definitely help in enriching the relationship, and also understanding the threat landscape is one of the most important things. For security leaders, whatever the technology evolution happens, it is day by day new threat vector. Like earlier we used to talk about systems in LAN, system in WAN, then internet facing web application, it has become a threat vector, then mobile, it has become new, then cloud. And now a lot of people are talking about AI ML. For me, what I understand is AI ML is also like one of the threat vector to security program. And tomorrow quantum may come, tomorrow something else may come. In this evolution of technologies, what we need a partnership who can closely work with the organizations, understand the requirement, understand the sector of the organization, their regulatory requirements, their legal requirements, and on top of it, how to make the security strategy way beyond compliance. That is where we expect partners and the service providers to pitch in, guide, help, and collaborate, and make it a successful program.
It's a combination, I think. There is no single answer to that. It's all combination of it, because the threat landscape is evolving. They are adopting new techniques. We also have to adopt. So as I said in earlier, my last response also, that collaboration is the key. Okay, it's not an option. It is essential now. So that's why the partner ecosystems, the entire OEM, includes the OEM service providers, the integrated channels, and other partners. So it's a combination of all. I'll start. I'll start. Yeah. Okay. So it's not threats or the evolving landscape, but uh, the blind spots. I will, in a single word, if I want to define, blind spots in the entire ecosystem, because our perimeters are going beyond our enterprise boundaries, right? And integrations are happening, uh, say, at a very large scale. So the key factor is that one should have a visibility, because you can protect what you can see. Yeah, one spot is blind spot. Yeah, because attacker is not going to check your risk and compliance posture before attacking, right? So in which way it will attack, but then we really continuously put efforts to increase the visibility, minimize the blind spots, and keep on putting the security controls around it.
Yeah, for me, I think two things. One is money, and second is predictive research. What? Yes, both the things.
What was the question again? So being in sales, if my numbers are not complete, I'm awake. So, yeah, customer calls and the downtime that we face sometimes, and I don't expect. So, so whenever we get a call, it's always a prospect. So no one calls a doctor.
Yeah, I think as a head of the risk function in an enterprise, and with the type of resiliency what we have, I would say we are not anxious about it. It's all the question of how you respond and recover, and the mechanism is quite oiled. Everybody knows their roles. The management is appreciative of the fact of what you need to do, and till the point everybody, the mechanism is oiled, well oiled, and understand it's a question of respond and recover with minimum impact. I think everybody has a good sleep. I think nothing, man. Nothing. Until the children doesn't speak, sleep. That's the only reason why you are awake. Nothing more than that.
I think for me, no business downtime because of cyber incidents. So if something is heard like because of some cyber incident, business is down, obviously it makes the CISO's life restless. So for that again, resiliency practice what we panelists have talked about is the priority item.
So I think with that we have come to an end of this panel session. The timer shows time's up, but do we have a minute or so if anybody has any questions? Otherwise, I think we have certain questions. Are we allowed to take it? Fine. Do we have a few minutes to take the questions?
Wonderful session. Congratulations, all of you are very eloquent and explained things well. Somebody touched upon this. I just wanted to, understand. See, whenever there are threats happening, there's a lot of times when not your organization, but a lot of organizations don't come out saying we faced a threat, we had an incident because of obvious reasons, shareholders, perceptions, stock values, etc. And unfortunately, we don't have a regulator here on the stage, right? But is there something that regulation-wise can be done to bring these things out, maybe incentivize without threatening people to whom these cyber incidents are happening? An organization which faced a cyber threat, let's say an attack or a hacking attack or something like that, they don't want to come out because they don't want to move, negatively their customer confidence. You especially, Satya, for example. So there's a history that people try to hide these things. Okay, what can be done better to bring it out in the public eye without threatening the reputation, revenues, etc., of the organization? Because normally you're worried that this will negatively impact everything around the business. Thanks.
Your good name?
My name is Tejraj. Tejraj.
Tejraj.
Yeah.
See, Tejraj, when any cyber incident happens, thus you all have sectoral regulators. I come from an insurance, so we have IRDAI, you have SEBI, RBI, you have sectoral regulators. The entity confides, we confide to the regulator. You do not confide to your peer organization, you confide to the regulator. So in the confidence of when you are confiding to the regulator and you are translating all the information in great transparency, it becomes how a peer sharing mechanism of knowledge, which is anonymous, is a platform is created by the regulator, because these are sensitive subjects. However, we may talk about this in terms of a transparent mechanism within the peer companies, it is not going to translate into actual action on the ground. The only entity which can translate this into action is your sectoral regulator, who is having all the information, who creates a platform which is anonymous, which creates business use cases, which is anonymous of an organization, and confides that information with everybody for them to gain knowledge and for them to understand what are the new threats and how threats are perpetrating there. Giving you an example of CERT. CERT also reaches out to every entity when there is a breach, and the key vulnerabilities and all information is provided to it. The CERT role is to propagate that information across every entity if at all there is a pattern of certain amount of attacks that are happening. So there are certain responsibilities and accountabilities of the sectoral regulators also for them to do in the tag, to pass on that information. But the point you are raising about sharing, I think that has to be done by the regulator itself. However, we may talk about, entities sharing with each other, I think this will be more theoretical, what I feel. My personal feeling, yeah.
I'll add to what Satya said. Of course, sectoral regulators are taking care of the sharing as explained by Satya. Just to add on is like certain, we know, right? Certain NCAPC, we are supposed to report to them as well. Every organization which faces any cyber incident also reports to certain. Wherein certain, and rightly said by Satya, that sharing happens through anonymization. And certain and NCPC, these regulators, what they do, they again share across the industry. And in the, I would say every organization may be getting the threat until it is available in their website. Only thing is they maintain there is something called TLP. Whenever they share that information, traffic light protocol, which can be public, which cannot be public. So like that they do categorize. So, and also they publish annual reports on, quarterly annual reports on what are the attacks happened in the country, and other details they do publish in their website. That's also one of the source where we can get into the visibility and reporting kind of a thing. What are the cyber incident happening in which organization? Again, naming specific organization may not be advisable. That's the reason they encourage anonymous sharing of all this threat intel. It is happening and it is helping the organizations as well. The moment some threat intel or somebody shares the incident details, they are sharing across all the means. Like for us, for our regulatory space in our SEBI regulatory entities, we do get that threat intel. And over and above, we have certain and NCPC which continuously shares the threat intel based on the reporting from other organizations. Yeah, that's what I just thought of adding it. Yeah, correct. Yes.
So I think we have overshot on the time. I know there was another. Can you do it offline? Will that be okay? Thank you.